The subway platform at Clark and Division smelled like stale coffee, urban decay, and the particular desperation that came from performing music for commuters who'd trained themselves not to see you. Luna Moretti had been playing here for 3 hours, her violin case open at her feet with its pathetic scattering of singles and quarters, her fingers aching from the cold that seeped up through the concrete even in October. She'd chosen Vivaldi tonight, Winter from the Four Seasons, because it matched the bleak mood settling over the city as autumn gave way to something harder, colder. Her bow moved across the strings with the kind of precision that came from 15 years of classical training, from a childhood spent in practice rooms instead of playgrounds, from a mother who'd believed Luna would be the next great virtuoso until the money ran out and the dream died somewhere between her high school graduation and her father's gambling debts. Now she played for loose change and the occasional tourist who thought a street musician was quaint, romantic, part of the authentic Chicago experience they could post about on social media. Most commuters streamed past without looking, their earbuds firmly in place, their eyes fixed on phones or the middle distance, or anything that meant they didn't have to acknowledge her existence. Luna had made $43 in 3 hours. Not enough. Never enough. She was halfway through the second movement when she became aware of someone watching. Not the usual quick glance and hurried walk past, but genuine attention, the weight of a focused gaze that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. She didn't stop playing, couldn't afford to break the flow, to lose the few people who'd paused to listen, but her awareness narrowed to the figure standing at the edge of the platform, just beyond the yellow safety line. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Luna made in 6 months. His dark hair was silvered at the temples, his face carved in hard lines that suggested both power and pain, and he stood completely still, his hands in his pockets, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her fingers tremble slightly on the strings. Luna finished the movement, the final notes hanging in the stale air, before dissolving into the rumble of an approaching train. The commuters who'd been listening dropped bills into her case, a 5, 2 ones, some quarters, and disappeared into the train cars. The platform emptied, leaving just Luna and the man in the expensive suit, who hadn't moved, hadn't looked away, hadn't done anything but watch her with an expression she couldn't read. She should pack up, should take her earnings and go home to her shoebox apartment in Pilsen, feed her cat, maybe eat something that wasn't ramen or day-old bagels. Should absolutely not engage with strange men on subway platforms, no matter how expensive their suits or how much money might represent. But something in his face stopped her. A grief so profound it was almost visible, like a cloak he wore over his shoulders. Luna had learned to read faces during her years performing in public spaces, had developed a sixth sense for danger, for desperation, for the kinds of people who saw street musicians as either entertainment or prey. This man didn't fit any category she recognized. "Do you take requests?" His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it much recently, and carried an accent that spoke of old Chicago neighborhoods, of Italian grandmothers and Sunday dinners, and roots that went deep into the city's bones. Luna's grip tightened on her violin. Requests usually meant drunk college students wanting sweet caroling, or tourists asking for Chicago, that toddlin' town. She didn't do pop music, didn't do novelty performances. She was a classical violinist who happened to be broke, not a jukebox. "Depends on the request," she said carefully. The man stepped closer, moving with a deliberate grace that suggested either dance training or something more dangerous. Martial arts, maybe, or the kind of physical confidence that came from knowing you could handle yourself in any situation. He stopped a respectful distance away, not crowding her space, and Luna saw that his eyes were dark, red-rimmed, exhausted. "Pachelbel's Canon in D," he said. "Can you play it?" Luna blinked. Of all the requests she might have expected, that wasn't one of them. Canon in D was wedding music, graduation music, the kind of piece that had been played so many times it had lost all meaning for most people. But something in the way he asked, the desperate hope beneath the careful control, made her nod. Yes, I can play it. Please. The single word carried such weight that Luna found herself lifting her violin before she'd consciously decided to comply. Please, just play it. I'll pay you. Whatever you want. Just play it. Luna settled the violin under her chin, positioned her bow, and began. The familiar melody flowed from her instrument, the same progression she'd played at dozens of weddings and ceremonies, the same notes that had become almost meaningless through repetition. But as she played, she watched the man's face transform. His eyes closed, his shoulders sagged, and his hand came up to press against his chest, like he was physically holding his heart together. She'd seen grief before, had played at funerals, had watched people cry through performances. But this was different. This was fresh, raw, the kind of pain that hadn't yet scabbed over, hadn't yet become bearable. Luna found herself pouring more emotion into the piece than she had in years, rediscovering the beauty beneath the familiarity, playing not for the commuters who streamed past, but for this one man whose world had clearly fallen apart. When she finished, the final notes echoing off the tiled walls, the man opened his eyes. Tears tracked down his face openly, unashamedly, and he made no move to wipe them away. Again, he said hoarsely. Please, play it again. Luna should ask for payment first, should establish a price, protect herself, maintain the professional distance that kept her safe. But she looked at his devastated face and heard herself say, "Okay." She played it again, and again, and again. Through 3 trains that came and went, through the gradual thinning of the evening crowd, through the shift change of the station attendant, who gave Luna a curious look, but didn't say anything about the man who'd essentially claimed the platform as his private concert hall. Luna's fingers ached, her shoulder burned, her back protested, standing in one position for so long. But she kept playing, because every time she finished and looked at the man, she saw the same desperate need in his face, the same silent plea for just one more time. Finally, after the 7th repetition, the man held up his hand. Luna stopped, lowering her violin, her entire body trembling with exhaustion. The man reached into his jacket. Luna's hand instinctively tightened on her violin bow, ready to use it as a weapon if necessary, and pulled out a wallet. He extracted several bills without counting them and stepped forward to place them in her violin case. Luna looked down. $500 bills. Her head snapped up. "I can't. That's too much." "It's not enough," the man interrupted, his voice raw. "It's not nearly enough for what you just gave me, but it's what I have in my wallet right now." He paused, his eyes searching her face. "That song, Canon in D. It was my mother's favorite. She had it played at her wedding, at every important family event. She used to hum it while she cooked, while she folded laundry, while she lived." His voice broke. "She died 3 weeks ago. Cancer. And I haven't been able to listen to music since then because everything hurts too much. But tonight, walking past this platform, I heard you playing Vivaldi and I thought maybe I could stand to listen. Maybe I could remember her without it destroying me." Luna's throat tightened. "I'm so sorry for your loss. I have a daughter," the man continued, as if Luna hadn't spoken. "She's 8, and she's been asking me to play her grandmother's favorite song, the one that was played at her funeral. But I can't. Every time I try to find a recording, to play it for her, I fall apart. I can't be what she needs right now because I'm too broken." He looked at Luna with desperate eyes. "But hearing you play it, live, real, with feeling, I could breathe through it, could remember without drowning, could give my daughter what she needs." Luna stood frozen, the weight of his grief pressing down on her like a physical thing. "I don't understand what you're asking me." "Come to my house," the man said. "Tomorrow or the next day, whenever you can. Play Canon in D for my daughter. Let her hear it the way I heard it tonight. Beautiful, honest, with someone who cares enough to make it mean something." He paused. I'll pay you $1,000. 2,000. Whatever it takes. Please, I need to give her this. Every instinct Luna had screamed warning. Strange men on subway platforms offering thousands of dollars to come to their houses. This was how horror movies started. This was how women ended up in danger, or worse. She should refuse, should take the $500 and disappear, should never see this man again. But she looked at his face, at the desperation and the grief and the fierce love for a daughter who'd lost her grandmother, and heard herself say, "Okay, I'll come." The man's expression crumbled with relief. "Thank you. God. Thank you." He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. "Give me your number. I'll send you the address. Arrange a time that works for you. And if you want to bring someone with you, a friend or family member, that's fine. I understand this is unusual. I understand you're taking a risk." Luna gave him her number, watched him type it into his phone with careful attention. A moment later, her own phone buzzed with a text. "This is Dante Marchetti. Thank you for agreeing to play for Isabella. You're saving us both." Marchetti. The name registered somewhere in Luna's consciousness, familiar in a way she couldn't quite place. Chicago had a lot of Italian families, a lot of people with names that sounded similar. It probably meant nothing. "Tomorrow?" Dante asked, his voice hopeful. "Is tomorrow too soon? Isabella has been asking every day, and I keep putting her off, and I can't keep disappointing her." Luna thought about her schedule. 2 subway performances planned, one in the morning at the Loop station and one in the evening back here at Clark and Division. She'd make maybe $60 or $70 if she was lucky, nowhere near the $1,000 Dante was offering for a single private performance. "Tomorrow afternoon," she said. "Around 3? Perfect." Dante's smile was brief, fragile, but genuine. "Thank you, Luna. You have no idea what this means." He turned to leave, then paused, looking back at her. "Be careful getting home. This isn't the safest neighborhood at night." Luna almost laughed at the irony. A strange man who'd just convinced her to come to his house was now worried about her safety on the subway. But there was such genuine concern in his expression that she found herself nodding instead. "I will, thank you." She watched him climb the stairs to the street level, his shoulders still bowed with grief, but somehow lighter than when he'd first appeared. Then Luna looked down at the $500 bills in her violin case, at the address Dante had texted her, an address in Lincoln Park, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Chicago, and wondered what the hell she'd just agreed to. The house on Burling Street was beautiful in the way that old money was beautiful. Understated elegance, perfect landscaping, the kind of property that whispered wealth rather than shouting it. Luna stood on the sidewalk clutching her violin case, her other hand gripping her phone where she'd texted her roommate the address and a promise to check in every 30 minutes. She'd done her research last night, had Googled Dante Marchetti Chicago, and watched the search results populate with a mixture of legitimate business ownership and vague, carefully worded articles about alleged organized crime connections. The Marchetti family had been in Chicago for generations, had their fingers in construction, waste management, a dozen other industries that could be completely legal or completely not, depending on who was asking. Luna should have canceled, should have sent a polite text saying she'd reconsidered, that she couldn't make it, that he should find another violinist. But she'd thought about the look on Dante's face when he'd heard Canon in D, the desperate love for a daughter who needed something he couldn't give her, the $500 that was currently paying for groceries and cat food and a dent in her overdue electric bill. So here she stood, terrified and determined, about to walk into a potential crime boss's house to play violin for his grieving daughter. The door opened before Luna could knock. Dante stood there in jeans and a sweater, the first time she'd seen him in anything other than a suit, and he looked somehow more vulnerable in casual clothes, more like a regular father, and less like the imposing figure from the subway platform. "You came," he said, relief evident in his voice. I wasn't sure you would. I said I would, Luna replied, echoing the words she'd spoken the night before. She stepped into the foyer, taking in the polished hardwood floors, the tasteful art on the walls, the family photos that showed a progression of birthdays and holidays, and a beautiful woman with dark hair and Dante's same intense eyes. My mother, Dante said, following her gaze. Sofia Marchetti. She was everything to all of us. Luna saw more photos as Dante led her through the house. Sofia with a little girl who must be Isabella. Sofia cooking in a kitchen filled with family. Sofia laughing at some private joke, fully alive, fully present. And in every photo where Dante appeared beside his mother, the love was obvious, transformative, the kind of bond that didn't break just because someone died. They found Isabella in a sunroom at the back of the house, curled up on a window seat with a book in her lap that she clearly wasn't reading. She was small for 8, delicate-featured, with her grandmother's dark eyes and her father's serious expression. She looked up when they entered, and Luna saw the same bone-deep grief she'd seen in Dante's face, aged down into something a child should never have to carry. Bella, Dante said softly, crouching beside the window seat. I brought someone to meet you. This is Miss Luna. She's a violinist, and she's going to play Nana's favorite song for you. Isabella's eyes went wide, flickering between her father and Luna with desperate hope. Really? You found someone who can play it? I did. Dante's voice was thick with emotion. Miss Luna plays beautifully. I heard her last night, and I knew she was the one who should play it for you. Isabella slid off the window seat, her movements careful, like she was afraid sudden movement might break something. She walked over to Luna, tilting her head back to look up at her with Sofia's eyes. Will you really play it? She asked, her voice small. Nana's song? Luna's throat closed. She knelt down so she was at Isabella's level, setting her violin case carefully on the floor. I'll play it as many times as you want to hear it. And if you want me to play other songs too, songs your grandmother liked, I can do that. She liked all kinds of music, Isabella said, her words tumbling out now that the dam had broken. Classical and opera and even some jazz. But Canon in D was special. It was at her wedding, and at Papa's wedding, and at my baptism, and at everything important. Papa says it's because it's about things building and building until they're beautiful and complete, like family. Luna looked up at Dante, who was staring at his daughter with such fierce love it was almost painful to witness. He'd clearly struggled to explain the music to Isabella, to give it meaning beyond just notes, and he'd done it well despite his own grief. That's a beautiful way to think about it, Luna said gently. Should I play it for you now? Isabella nodded eagerly, and Dante gestured to a chair. Please sit. Be comfortable. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? I'm fine, thank you. Luna settled into the chair, pulling out her violin with practiced movements. She was aware of Isabella moving closer, sitting on the floor at Luna's feet, with her legs crossed and her hands folded in her lap, her entire body radiating anticipation. Luna lifted her violin, positioned her bow, and began to play. She'd played Canon in D hundreds of times, thousands maybe. But playing it here, in this sunroom filled with grief and hope, for this little girl who just wanted to remember her grandmother, Luna poured everything she had into the performance. She thought about her own mother, who died of a heart attack when Luna was 20, who'd never gotten to see Luna graduate from conservatory before the money ran out. She thought about Dante's face on the subway platform, the way the music had given him permission to grieve. She thought about Sofia Marchetti, who must have been remarkable to inspire this much love, this much loss. When the last notes faded, Luna lowered her violin and looked at Isabella. The little girl had tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling, her expression transformed from the serious grief Luna had first seen into something lighter, sweeter, more like the child she should be. That was beautiful, Isabella whispered. That was exactly how I remember it. Exactly how Nona would have wanted it. Again? Luna asked gently. Isabella nodded, wiping her eyes. Please, one more time. Luna played it again, and when she finished, Isabella asked for it once more. And then again, 4 times total, until Isabella's tears had dried and her smile had steadied, and she looked at her father with something that wasn't quite peace, but was closer to it than she'd been before. Thank you, Isabella said, standing up and throwing her arms around Luna's neck in an impulsive hug. Thank you for playing Nona's song, for making it real again. Luna's arms came around the little girl automatically, her violin bow carefully held away so it wouldn't poke her. You're so welcome, sweetheart. I'm glad I could help. Dante was staring at them with an expression Luna couldn't quite read. Gratitude mixed with something deeper, something that made her pulse quicken. When Isabella finally released her and wandered back to her window seat, picking up her book with significantly more life in her movements, Dante cleared his throat. Can I talk to you? In the other room? Luna nodded, carefully packing away her violin. She followed Dante to what turned out to be a home office, lined with books and family photos, and the kind of dark wood furniture that suggested old money and old traditions. Dante closed the door behind them, then turned to face her with an intensity that made Luna's breath catch. You just gave my daughter something I couldn't, he said, his voice rough with emotion. You let her remember her grandmother with joy instead of just pain. You made music beautiful again for both of us. How do I thank you for that? You don't have to. I do, Dante interrupted, stepping closer. I need to. Because what you did wasn't just a performance, it was a gift, a kindness that saved us both. He pulled an envelope from his desk drawer and held it out. This is what I promised you. $2,000. Luna's eyes widened. You said 1,000. I said whatever it takes. You gave us more than I asked for, more than I hoped. This is the least I can do. He pressed the envelope into her hands, his fingers warm against hers. Please, take it. And if it's not enough, if you need more. It's enough, Luna interrupted, staring at the envelope like it might bite her. $2,000, 2 months of rent, 6 months of groceries, a new bridge for her violin that she'd been putting off for a year. This is more than enough. Thank you. Dante's hand remained on hers, his thumb tracing across her knuckles in a gesture that seemed unconscious. Will you come back? Play for Isabella again? She responds to you in a way she hasn't responded to anyone else since Sofia died. And He paused, his dark eyes searching her face. I need this too. Need to hear music again. Need to remember that beauty still exists in the world. Luna knew she should say no. Should take the money and leave, maintain professional boundaries, not get tangled up with a man whose last name appeared in articles about organized crime. But she looked at Dante's face, at the desperate hope and the lingering grief and the unexpected gentleness, and found herself nodding. Okay, I'll come back, whenever Isabella needs me. Thank you. Dante's smile was warm, genuine, transforming his face from harsh to almost handsome. Can I have your number? For real this time, not just for scheduling, so we can. He trailed off, seeming uncertain for the first time since Luna had met him. Luna pulled out her phone, her hands shaking slightly as she handed it to him. Put your number in, I'll text you. She watched Dante type in his contact information, noticed how he saved himself simply as Dante, without the last name that carried so much weight. When he handed her phone back, his fingers lingered against hers for a moment longer than necessary. Luna, he said, testing her name on his tongue like it was something precious. Thank you. For everything. For seeing past what you probably read about me online. For coming anyway. For giving Isabella her grandmother back, even if only through music. You read about yourself online? Luna asked, then immediately wanted to take the words back. Too personal, too direct, too much acknowledgement of the research she'd done. But Dante just laughed, a bitter sound, I know what people say about my family, what they imply, what they suspect, what they can't prove. And some of it's true, some of it's exaggerated, and some of it's complete fabrication. But all of it makes people nervous, makes them see me as dangerous before they see me as a father who just lost his mother and needs someone to help his daughter grieve. Luna thought about that, about the choice she'd made to come here despite the warnings, despite the implications, despite every reason to stay away. I'm glad I came, she said honestly. Isabella needed this. And maybe you did too. I did, Dante admitted, his voice dropping to something intimate, vulnerable. I've been drowning for 3 weeks, trying to be strong for Isabella, for my family, for everyone who depends on me. But hearing you play last night, it was the first time I've been able to breathe since Sofia died. The first time I felt like I might survive this. Luna's hand found his, squeezing gently. It was an impulse, a gesture of comfort that crossed every professional boundary. But looking at Dante's face, at the raw grief and the desperate gratitude, she couldn't bring herself to pull away. You will survive this, she said softly. Both of you. It won't be easy, and it won't be quick, but you'll find your way through. And if music helps, if I can help, then I'm glad to be here. Dante's hand tightened on hers, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Stay for dinner, please. Isabella would love it, and I don't want you to go yet. I don't want to be alone with the grief again so soon. Luna should say no, should maintain boundaries, protect herself, not get drawn deeper into this family's orbit. But she looked at Dante Marchetti's face and heard herself say yes. Dinner was pasta made by Dante's aunt, who appeared from somewhere in the house, with a pot of marinara and enough carbs to feed a small army. Isabella sat next to Luna at the dining table, chattering about school and her friends and her grandmother's garden that she was trying to keep alive, even though she didn't know anything about plants. Dante sat across from them, watching Luna interact with his daughter, with an expression that made her pulse quicken every time she caught him looking. After dinner, Isabella asked Luna to play more music. They moved back to the sunroom, and Luna played Vivaldi and Beethoven, and some yo-yo ma pieces she'd learned for a competition years ago. Isabella fell asleep on the couch halfway through Bach, her small body curled up against her father's side, and Dante waved for Luna to keep playing, his hand gently stroking his daughter's hair. Luna had performed for audiences of hundreds. She'd played in concert halls and competitions and prestigious venues. But playing in this sunroom for this man and his sleeping daughter felt more important than any of those performances. More real. More like the music mattered for reasons beyond technical perfection. When she finally lowered her violin, the room had fallen into the deep quiet of late evening. Dante carefully extracted himself from Isabella, lifting his daughter in his arms like she weighed nothing, and disappeared down the hallway. He returned a few minutes later, alone, his expression soft. She hasn't slept that peacefully since before Sofia got sick, he said quietly, sinking into the chair beside Luna's. Usually she wakes up crying, has nightmares about the hospital, about finding out her grandmother was gone. But tonight she just fell asleep listening to music, like a normal child. Music is powerful, Luna said, carefully wiping down her violin before packing it away. It reaches parts of us that words can't touch. You're powerful, Dante corrected, his eyes intent on her face. Not just the music, you. The way you played for Isabella. The way you understood what we needed without us having to explain. The way you walked into a stranger's house because you saw grief and wanted to help. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, close enough that Luna could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle that made her want to lean closer. Who are you, Luna Moretti? What makes a violinist end up playing in subway stations instead of concert halls? Luna's fingers stilled on her violin case. How do you know that's not where I want to be? Because I've seen you play, Dante said simply. You're trained, really trained. Conservatory level, maybe higher. You don't end up in subway stations by choice with that kind of talent. Luna looked away, uncomfortable with how easily he'd read her. My mother died. The money ran out. I had to drop out of Juilliard in my second year, came back to Chicago, and started trying to make a living the only way I knew how. She shrugged, trying to make it sound casual, trying to hide how much it still hurt. Turns out there's not a huge market for classically trained violinists who don't have the connections or the pedigree to book real gigs. That's going to change, Dante said, his voice carrying absolute conviction. Luna's head snapped toward him. What? You're not playing in subway stations anymore. Dante pulled out his phone, fingers moving quickly across the screen. I know people. People who run theaters, orchestras, private events that pay real money. People who owe me favors. People who will listen when I tell them I've found a violinist they need to hear. Dante, you can't. I can, he interrupted, looking up at her with fierce determination. You gave my daughter peace. You gave me the ability to breathe again. You think I'm going to let you go back to playing for quarters on subway platforms? Let me help you, Luna. Let me open doors that have been closed. Let me give you what you deserve. Luna felt tears prick her eyes. Why? Why would you do that for me? We barely know each other. Because you came when I asked, Dante said simply, reaching out to cup her face with gentle fingers. Because you saw past my name, past what people say about my family, and you came anyway. Because you treated my daughter with kindness and my grief with respect, and my dead mother's favorite song with reverence. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone, wiping away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. Because when I look at you, I see someone who deserves better than what life has given her. And I have the power to change that, so let me. Luna stared at him, her heart hammering in her chest. This was insane. She'd known this man for less than 24 hours. He was probably a criminal, definitely dangerous, absolutely someone she should keep at arm's length. But he was looking at her like she mattered, like she was important, like helping her was the most natural thing in the world. Okay, she whispered. Okay, help me. But not because you owe me. Because you want to. I want to, Dante said immediately, his voice rough with emotion. God, Luna, I want to more than you know. I want to hear you play in concert halls instead of subway stations. I want to watch you succeed the way you deserve to succeed. I want. He trailed off, his eyes searching her face. I want to see you again. Not just because Isabella needs you, not just because the music helps us grieve, but because when I'm with you, I feel like I might survive this. Like there's still beauty in the world worth reaching for. Luna's breath caught. Dante, it's too soon, he interrupted, his hand dropping from her face. I know it's too soon. Sofia's been gone 3 weeks. I have no business feeling anything for anyone. But when you play, when you smile at my daughter, when you look at me like I'm just a person instead of a name in a newspaper, I feel something, and I don't want to let that go. Luna should be sensible, should point out all the reasons this was a terrible idea, the grief, the danger, the impossibility of their different worlds colliding. But she looked at Dante Marchetti's face and saw her own loneliness reflected back, her own desperate need for connection, her own hope that maybe, just maybe, something good could come from something that started with loss. I don't want to let it go either, she admitted, the words feeling like a confession. But I'm scared. Of you, of this, of what it means to be involved with someone whose life is so different from mine. I know, Dante said, taking her hand in his. And I can't promise you it won't be dangerous. I can't promise my world won't touch you, won't change you, won't bring complications you never asked for. But I can promise I'll protect you. I can promise that whatever this becomes, I'll be honest with you. And I can promise that you matter to me already, in a way that terrifies and amazes me in equal measure. Luna looked at their joined hands, her fingers calloused from violin strings, his scarred across the knuckles from a life she couldn't quite imagine. They shouldn't fit together. Everything about their lives was wrong for this, but somehow, impossibly, it felt right. "One step at a time," she said finally. "You help me find better gigs. I come play for Isabella when she needs me. We see where this goes without forcing it, without putting pressure on something that's too new, too fragile to withstand much weight." "One step at a time," Dante agreed, lifting her hand to his lips and pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "Starting with dinner tomorrow night. Just us. No Isabella, no grief, no music unless you want to bring your violin. Just two people getting to know each other." Luna's heart raced. "That sounds like a date." "It is a date," Dante confirmed, his smile warm and genuine, and transforming his face into something that took her breath away. "A real date, with a woman who walked into my life playing Vivaldi on a subway platform and somehow made me believe I could survive losing my mother." Luna looked at him, this complicated, dangerous, grieving man who'd heard her music and seen past the subway platform to the violinist she'd always wanted to be. She thought about all the reasons she should say no, should protect herself, should walk away before this became something she couldn't control, and then she thought about how it felt when Dante looked at her, like she mattered, like she was seen, like maybe, just maybe, they could both find something worth holding on to in the wreckage of their broken dreams. "Okay," Luna said, squeezing his hand. "Tomorrow night, a real date." Dante's smile was brilliant, and when he leaned forward to press a gentle kiss to her forehead, Luna felt something shift in her chest, hope mixing with fear, possibility tangling with danger, the beginning of something that could either save them both or destroy them completely. She didn't know which it would be, but as Dante called a car to take her home safely, as he walked her to the door with his hand warm at the small of her back, as he promised to text her tomorrow with dinner details, Luna realized she didn't care. She was tired of playing it safe, tired of subway stations and quarters in her violin case, and dreams that felt impossibly far away. Dante Marchetti was offering her a chance, at music, at connection, at something more than the lonely existence she'd been surviving. And Luna was going to take it, consequences be damned. She'd spent her whole life playing other people's music, following other people's rules, trying to fit into a world that had rejected her when the money ran out. Maybe it was time to write her own song, even if the melody was dangerous, even if the harmony was complex, even if she had no idea how it would end. Luna walked down the steps of Dante's house, her violin case in her hand, and $2,000 in her pocket, and hope blooming in her chest for the first time in years. Behind her, she heard Dante call her name. She turned to find him standing in the doorway, backlit by the warm glow of his home, his expression tender. "Thank you," he called across the distance, "for everything, for the music, for Isabella, for giving me something to look forward to again." "Thank you," Luna called back, "for hearing me." And in that moment, standing on a Chicago street in the October darkness, Luna Moretti understood that sometimes the wrong turn leads you exactly where you need to be. Sometimes the subway platform isn't the destination. It's just the beginning of a journey you never knew you needed to take. She climbed into the car Dante had called, gave the driver her address, and pulled out her phone. One text from her roommate asking if she was okay. One text from Dante, already waiting. "Tomorrow at 7. I'll pick you up. Wear something that makes you feel beautiful. You deserve to feel that way every day." Luna smiled, her fingers moving across the screen. "I'll be ready. Thank you for seeing me." His response came immediately. "Thank you for letting me."